During times of stress and chaos, people often look to their bank accounts, either as a sense of comfort for what's there, or as added and compounded stress for what's not there. In our current situation, people are concerned about the economy and the potential for economic disaster and collapse, and that is nothing necessarily new. I think particularly to the mid-6th century BC and the writings of the prophet Haggai. See, during this time period, the Babylonian Empire, which had carried off God's people into captivity, has fallen and been replaced by the Persians, who are now sending people back to their homelands to begin to rebuild. But it's a slow, tough, tedious process because their infrastructure is shattered. Their economy is in shambles. It's completely collapsed as they are trying slowly to rebuild. And Haggai begins to prophesy to the people about the necessity to begin rebuilding God's temple. That as they seek to be blessed by God, they should focus some of their limited resources on rebuilding God's temple. But they quickly become discouraged and disheartened, and the work stalls out. And in chapter 2, Haggai speaks directly to some of the older generation who had lived long enough to have seen the previous temple. See, Solomon's temple was built at the height of economic power for God's people. And it was a splendid, magnificent structure. Yet this rebuilt temple is being built from a position of poverty and limited resources, and it pales in comparison in their eyes, and they get quickly discouraged. But Haggai writes to remind them that all of the resources of this world belong to God. God speaks through the prophet and says, "The silver is mine, the gold is mine." And the message of timeless wisdom that Haggai is speaking is that all economic wealth and resource and security, it's tied up in God. And he distributes those things on loan as he sees fit in his timing. And Haggai goes on to prophesy a time when God would shake the heavens and do a wondrous thing in rebuilding his kingdom and being faithful to his promise. See, that is who our God is. He is a God who is faithful to his word. And one thing that he has promised is that he will meet our needs. Maybe not necessarily in the way that we want or in the timing that we would like, but God is faithful to meet our needs. And in times of uncertainty, of potential disaster and worry about the economy and about jobs, let us remember the words of Haggai that all resources belong to God, and he's promised to take care of our needs. And let us be a people who are used by God. Let's look out for the needs of others. Not just look for how God is going to meet our needs, but how could God use us to meet the needs of someone else? How can we be the hands of Jesus to help those who are in need during tough times? The message of Haggai is still relevant and true today. The silver and the gold belong to God. And so do the dollars and the toilet paper and the resources. Let's look out for one another in tough times. And let's continue to trust in God to meet all of our needs.